Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'da, habibti fillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, accepts our good and forgives our evil. It's a little cold out here. I feel like my mouth is freezing as we're talking, almost frozen in a smile. So a smile is a good thing to freeze as, if it does freeze that way. Alhamdulillah, I decided to do this as kind of an open questions and answers. If there are any questions that we can hopefully bring about benefit to others and benefit our own souls in order to spread the khair, to spread good. Because no doubt, when we look at social media and we look at our various options, there's three things you could either be spreading. You could be spreading that which is good. You could be spreading that which is permissible. Or you could be spreading that which is shar, evil. More or less, that is, in essence, what can be brought out. And as we see, there's so much controversy, so much fitna, so much madness spread through social media amongst Muslims. We're not even talking about all the shar other than that. We're talking about amongst the believers, that there's so much fitna and trials, tribulations and strife, enmity and hatred. And we also see the activity of many of the innovative groups and sects, that they are busy. They're busy producing. They're busy putting things out. They're busy spreading their nonsense. And that which consists of mukhalafat, consists of deviations from the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with newly invented ways of understanding. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man ahdatha fi amrina hadha ma laysa minhu fahuwa rad." Whoever innovates in this affair of ours will have it rejected. So, as Muslims, we want to strive our best to adhere to orthodoxy, and that comes through Islamic knowledge, the acquiring of Islamic knowledge. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man yuridillahu bi khairin yafaqqahu fid din." Whenever Allah wants good for a person, he gives them fiqh, understanding of the religion. So fiqh fi din, true fiqh fi din, from memorization, from implementation, from recitation, from review, and from understanding. All of those are components of knowledge, and all of that, we need that. And that can all be what can help us to gain that, to have that fiqh fi din. And they're comprised of fiqh fi din. And with that, that helps to be a mani, something which prohibits us from those mukhalafat, from sinfulness, from bid'ah, mukhalafat, and from various newly invented matters. And with that, that doesn't mean we're free from mistakes and we're not human any longer. But as Muslims, we want to strive to be the best that we can, and that we want to adhere to the Quran and the Sunnah to the best of our ability and avoid religious innovation. So that means always, I don't say you question your minhaj, but you question your adherence to the minhaj of the Salaf. And one of the things, as a piece of advice that I find that's very beneficial for me, that, when I see that, maybe through criticism or just reminders from various ways of being reminded, that going back to the books of the Salaf, a lot of times that helps to kind of bring you back in, because it's easy to allow your understanding, your shortcomings in understanding, your whims, your affinities, what things that you like, people you like, and so forth, to kind of sometimes distort and get you away from the madhab of the Salaf. And that's why it's very important to always go back to those books of the Salaf and revise. And really, in fact, this brings up another point of kind of why I thought it was so important for me to do to launch Athari Institute. That is something for years I've kind of thought about, that the importance of showing that relationship between contemporary Salafis, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, to Ahl Sunnah in the past, to show that there's a consistent methodology, there's a consistent means and a chain there. Because with so many people critiquing Ahl Sunnah and critiquing the Minhaj of Ahl Sunnah, the Usul of Ahl Sunnah, causing doubt about it, it's very important to establish and show that it's a consistent methodology. And that comes through teaching it, learning it, spreading it. So that was one of the reasons for me to want to launch the concept of Al-Athari, is to bring people back to those books of the Salaf. And that's really one of the things I really want to focus on, is reviving, more classical texts, as well as some more contemporary books, but more so classical texts with the explanations of the scholars, to really show that Athari creed, the creed of the Salafee-Jihaadee, the Salafi creed, the creed of Ahl Hadith wa Sunnah, the creed of the Salafee-Jihaadee. So that is something which is so important. Again, that's knowledge, that's the acquisition of knowledge, that is that's what we have to do. So now I think we will open it up. If anybody has questions, we'll try our best to answer or point people in the direction where they can possibly find that answer. Bi-idhnillah ta'ala. Na'am. Whoops. A sister is asking about a brother who is interested in her for marriage and who has deen, akhlaq, etc. However, he does not fit her standards of height, as he is the same height as her. What should she do? Again, those kind of questions, when you think about it, those are your questions. Meaning those are questions that you have to answer. So for example, if a sister's in a situation like that, she finds a brother of good religion, but she knows that she's not pleased. She likes tall men, or she likes short men. She likes fat men. She likes muscular men. She likes thin men. Whatever her standard, she's got to consider that, and she's got to take that serious, because if that is something like the height, he's never going to be able to change that. He's not going to get tall. Maybe Allah will put love in between you. Maybe Allah will put, those are blessings, but you should not, and I say this especially coming from a Western perspective, is I don't believe it's a good idea for longevity in marriage for people to compromise kind of the physical appearance for them, because we live not just in a time, but a place where the physical people are very caught up in the physical appearance. And we are products of those environments, through the social media, through the television, through all those things. We are products of that. We're products of our time, products of our environment. And this is the case even in very conservative Muslim societies like Saudi Arabia and other places. They're very much, the women don't want, it's not like their mothers and grandmothers. They want to marry the guy who's on the Turkish soap opera, or they want to marry this, they want to marry that. They really are into that. They want a Denzel Washington type looking guy, or they want Tom, whoever the more recent Tom Cruise. That's what they want. They've seen that in the movies. They're impressed by that. They're affected by that. So my point being is that if you think as a sister that the person that you're interested in is not, you're not physically attracted to that person, or they're not tall enough, or they're not this or that, then you should really consider that before you marry them. You should maybe not do that. That's going to be your decision. That'll be your decision. and seek the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then ask people from amongst your Muslim sisters who know, trustworthy sisters, and even your mother, if she's a Muslim, or even if she's not a Muslim, you could explain some of those things and say, hey, do you think, you need advice from people who are similar in that respect, as far as some of those other things in the physical appearance, because it's very important. You don't want to be in a situation, he's a good brother in deen, but you're just not attracted to him. That happens a lot. There's a lot of brothers who marry good sisters, good in religion, but they're just not attracted to him. They're not compatible. They're from different cultures, different whatever, different backgrounds, and they find that after a while it does not work as they wish it would. Sometimes people, and I know an imam, and I won't say his name, Talib al-Ilm, and he mentioned to me once when we were in Saudi Arabia, and he said, and we were talking about situations, he had married in one of the countries and so forth, and he said to me, he said, man, don't you just miss love? He said this to me. So hopefully he's not listening, but I will never point him out anyway. But so he mentioned that, and that's true, that he missed some of the things that from his cultural background, that home flavor, that was something that became important to him. He may have married a sister that had some good religious features or what have you, but eventually that it didn't work. So it's I'm not saying that you have to marry from the same culture. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that you need to really think about that before you get married, about those things which are important to you, those things which may become important to you later, which you obviously don't know. So you want to, as the Prophet ﷺ said, marry for those four things: the good religion, I guess, if they have status and wealth, if they have and good looking and stuff. You don't want to throw out the other things just because someone has religion, because for a lot of us, unfortunately, because our iman fluctuates and stuff, that may not always be the bond which keeps people together. People can have both be on good deen and just incompatible. And sometimes they find that out after having children, and lots of children after. There's many people nowadays, unfortunately, who after 20, 30 years of marriage, they divorce. And they go literally, I've known certain cultures, and these are Muslim cultures, where they went to their childhood sweetheart kind of thing. They knew each other from the village back in such and such country, and they divorce their spouse after 25, 20, 30 years, and they go back to that spouse. This actually happens. So I just say marriage, it's such a serious thing, and I say do not step into a marriage already kind of super compromised, meaning that you're compromising what you want, or you compromise what is good for you right off the get-go. There's always going to be some compromise. You're not going to marry that supermodel that you want as a woman or as a man. Maybe you will, maybe you won't, but most of us, it's not going to be like our dream necessarily, or we have this image, we have that image, but you want it to be acceptable, that it is pleasing to you, that as a woman, you are pleased with your husband. That's where you're looking at. And as a man, you're pleased with your wife, that she can help you lower your gaze, and especially as men, because we are much more distracted, much more, we're much more flightier in that sense. And I think that's due to our nature. So very important to consider all of those things, to consider that when, choosing a spouse for men and women. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala knows best. Is it okay to take knowledge from Omar Quinn and Germantown Masjid? Are there any divides? I don't know what that means. So anyhow, ala kulli hal, I have never listened to Omar Quinn, so I don't really know. The little bit I know about him, what I heard, I don't know that he maybe hasn't studied like that, but maybe he's known as an imam there, or maybe he's a student of knowledge. I don't know a lot about him. Germantown is well known. It's well known, associated with the Salafee dawah for decades, I believe. And that's about all I can tell you. So as far as taking knowledge, I don't know, because I don't listen to Western speakers. I'm like the ostrich with their head in the ground, and I'm not even being, and that's really not stretching it, because I only listen, and you know, it's rare. I might see Muhammad Munir's broadcasting, or my brothers at Muslim Family Center, or something might come up. Other than, and you know, little bit I've listened to Sheikh Tahir and stuff like this, but I do not listen to English speakers, and it's not a belittlement of little English speakers. Not, that's just my tarbiyah. That's the way I was raised, you know, when I started seeking knowledge, and that's who I just listen to my scholars. Really, I go back. You're going to see me listening to Sheikh Ibrahim Raheli, Sheikh Suleiman Raheli, Sheikh Salih Suhaimi, Sheikh Ubaid Jabri. Oh, Sheikh Rabi's clip just came up. Oh, Sheikh Salih Ali Sheikh Fazan. That's me. I'm not knocking anybody else for what they listen to, and that's great. That's just who I find that going to what I consider the source. And because that, you know, you only have so much time in a day, so I'm listening to Arabic lectures. So honestly, I don't know. A lot of times when these fitnas and things happen, a lot of times I find out it might be a year or two later, you know, because I just don't know. I don't mix. I don't have any, unfortunately, where I'm at now, I don't have a community. You know, it's just, yeah, so it just is what it is. So I think, so I really can't tell you a lot of times about speakers. I don't know. I don't listen to them. I might see guys, their things come up on the YouTube or something. I might be familiar with their faces. I may have never opened it. I've never maybe heard their voice. But sometimes you'll know just by what they post about or something. Maybe they say, okay, they're talking about medkhalis. Then I kind of have an idea. And then if I open their clip, I'll see, oh, okay, I see where this guy's coming from. Or someone else. You know, that's it. So I'm not really one to really go back to ask about some of those things. Now, someone asked if, like our Prophet ﷺ, the other prophets also can't be imitated by the shaitan in dreams. Allahu alam. Allahu alam. I can't speculate about those things. So I only Allah knows best. I've been Muslim for 20 years. Watched all 70 Islamic channels. Is there only 70 channels? There's got to be hundreds, I'm sure. I'm not sure what books to purchase. I've considered the 7 Islamic library books or fiqh volume 1 and 2. Any recommendations? So I've talked about recommendations and stuff. In general, anyway, sciences that you are studying. And what I say is, you know, get books, some books in various sciences. For example, if you can get, of course, hadith books like Bukhari and Muslim, or at least the summarized version, the abridged version, or in books of Aqidah, like an explanation of Al-Usul Thalatha, the 3 principles, the 4 principles, Qa'id al-Arba, maybe Nawaqid al-Islam, things like this, Kitab al-Tawheed, perhaps with the explanation. Those are excellent books for Aqidah. A book of fiqh that you can actually maybe go through with a student of knowledge, and or something like this. So you have it as a reference. What I would say is excellent is 2 books. Imam Sa'di's, which is Imam Sa'di's, this is what I use for Al-Athari Institute. I use Mudaraka Salikin, Imam Sa'di's book, which is a basic book in fiqh. Very good, very basic, and it's in English. Fantastic. Also, another excellent, simple book, which is good for a beginner and good as a reference, is Imam Salih bin Fawzan's book, Malakhis Fiqhiyya, the summarized version of fiqh, and it's in 2 volumes. That's also excellent because it's going to give you, you know, some basics on how to practice basic fiqh fi deen and jurisprudence. Very essential. And again, one thing you want to know when you're reading these books is, again, I can never underestimate the importance of studying, you know, of doing that with a teacher, a talib al-ilm. Because even that, if you were just to take fiqh books, and even if you're a very articulate person and you're very good at understanding things, and you read that doesn't make you necessarily a student of knowledge and where you can, understand all those masail, even as simple as Imam Fawzan's book is and Imam As-Sa'di, but it's going to give you very simple, but it's nothing is like studying. That's just the reality. So those are excellent resources to have. Those are just some of the books that I can recommend. I can't think of right offhand other books, but the other sciences that you'll need for your practice. But those are some core books I think that are important. Something in Creed, Aqidah. Even some of those basic books like Dar es Salaam, they have some good, well-rounded Aqidah books. About the pillars of Islam, pillars of Iman. Those are important books. Their book, they used to have a series, and it was like strengthening your Iman or something like this, and just giving you those basics, because those basics, everything is built off that. Everything is built off that, built off the pillars of Iman, and and the Aqidah and so forth. So those are very important books. You can find a lot of beneficial books. You can find a lot of beneficial ones free nowadays. That's the amazing thing. What is your opinion of Al-Madrasa? I've talked about that a lot. Ustad Abdurrahman Hassan and his Madrasa. So I've never went to his actual went to his actual institute, been and seen the courses, but I'm subscribed to his YouTube channel, and I think I've praised him many times in saying that I think that's a place to benefit and gain Islamic knowledge. He's a very good ustad, and has ilm, from what I can determine when I've listened to him the few times and so forth. I see, he's going into depth, and he has a lot to offer. So that's great benefit, and it's great, and it's a great benefit that people like that have such a good, strong following, because it's important that callers and speakers of Ahlus Sunnah have good, big followings, not just the people of innovation and desires, as we see so many Mubtadi'ah, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 subscribers. When they speak and do a lecture, how many people are listening? So we need Ahlus Sunnah also to have some of those bigger platforms to be spreading the Sunnah. We want that to be spread to the people. So that's very important. So I would say definitely benefit, has great benefit from what I can determine, and from what I've heard. And Ustad Abu Taymiyyah, I know him personally, so we've had conversations, not about Abdurrahman Hassan, but I know that they're very close, or at least they were. And so, there's a lot of beneficial du'at out there doing a lot of positive work, which is important, as well as kathir, many people of misguidance and dalal. So just be careful. Be careful who you listen to and who you take your knowledge from. Na'am. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to seek knowledge full-time but also wants to get married, so needs to work full-time? Again, we've talked about those kind of things a lot of times too, many times. And again, that's going to depend upon the person. If the person is at a state where they're afraid of falling into the haram and it's pressing that they need to get married, then they should probably get married. And if they, it's not as big of a deal and they can be patient, then yeah, that's a great thing if they seek the knowledge. Going overseas to seek knowledge is not an obligation. It's not wajib. Okay, this is great. It's already, it's fulfilled by the fact that we have students of knowledge and mashayikh and du'at, in America and Canada and stuff who've done this. That's great. If you can do that and be a part of that too, that's great. But it's not necessarily an obligation, whereas that marriage could possibly fall into an obligation if you're in a state of danger. But if you have the opportunity and it's not a great fitna, then go seek knowledge and then get married, maybe on that path overseas or back in your country as well. Whatever's best for you. Should we not catch Cambridge Muslim College lecture since it's a sect of Sufi Islam? What's your opinion? The only thing I know about, I forget his name, who's a part of that. No, I would say absolutely not to listen to that. No way. I forget his name. Has blonde hair. I think he was in Syria. I forget his name. Not Nur Hamim Keller. It's another one who's a Sufi. None of the, don't listen, run from those guys. I don't say don't listen. I say run. I say if you see their lecture, run. Go, you see this field? Run. You see all the, I don't know, you can't see those, at least you see those trees. Run over there if you see their lectures over here. Wallah musta'an. Yeah, you don't want to be far away from the people of innovation and desires and their philosophy and their ta'an for Ahl Sunnah. I even quoted one of his quotes, and I can't think of the guy's name right now. But one of his quotes about Salafiyah and stuff like that, I used that in my PhD. So those guys, you know, yeah, there's nothing beneficial that they have to offer that Ahl Sunnah can't offer you. So don't even, you know, run from that stuff. Rush. Mahmoud, Abdul Hakim Marad. Yeah, that's his name. And so run from those kind of lectures. Wallahu musta'an. If an Islamic book has a gold and green design, is it one of the signs? No, I never heard anything like that. Fiqh accepted by the ulama. Never heard of that. No. What is the layout of Al-Athari in particular? Once you take the classes for each lesson, what happens next in terms of tests? Also, are there any resources, forums we could use in the institute? So the forums, I'm in the process of learning how to get the forums together. So it's a learning process, learning how to use this learning management platform. As far as tests, most of the classes have very simple tests just to test your knowledge. These are, you know, it's not meant to have people fail. They're not they're not there to they're just there to actually see if some of the core points in general you understood. And the tafsil, the details, you'll get from the actual lectures, from actually going through it, taking notes, gaining benefit. So that's where we're at now. We do, most of the courses have quizzes, and you get a certificate when you finish those quizzes. I think there's only like 2 courses out of the 9 that are up, or 10. There's 10 up now. I just put a new free course up about Aqidah. That, so I would say at least 7 of them, you will get a certificate, basically a certificate of completion, that you completed it. Now, so if you pass the test, and the tests are not made to be difficult, so that is not the goal. The goal is to get people to get them through that knowledge, to ground themselves in basic knowledge and take you step by step. Level 2 is where I really get into more of many other books that are, books that we are, going to another level, getting into tafsir, getting into some of the books of the Salaf, and then level 3 and 4, if people go to that stage, or whoever goes to that stage, that's where you're going to get into Aqidat al-Tahawiyya, Sharh Sunnah, Imam Barbahari, those kind of books, probably at that stage. I've already recorded those durus, but they're very long because I didn't have that, the course is ongoing, so I've changed the format. Now I'm trying to make courses that people can get through. Because like I said before, I have Aqidat al-Tahawiyya, Sharh Sunnah, Imam Barbahari, and both of those durus are at least more than 50 hours of content per dars. So that means if you did Aqidat al-Tahawiyya and Aqidat and Sharh Sunnah, Imam Barbahari, those books, I have at least 100 plus hours of content. I don't think anybody's going to finish that. So I will still try to put those on Athari as free courses. Those will be courses that are optional. If you want to go through them, you go through them. I just want to preserve them. I put a lot of work into them. As I said, at least 100 plus hours into recording that content. And but I'm going to change the format because I want lectures to be no longer than 20, 30 minutes per dars. I think that's realistic for the way people study these days. You know, it's not like being in Saudi Arabia or Yemen where you're sitting with the sheikh for an hour and a half or more. You know, that's what most people are not accustomed to that. So that's why we'll keep the lectures short. Maybe, you know, as you see, they're on average about 15 minutes to 20 minutes per dars. You know, so that's what I'll probably re-record some of those, like Shutter Sunnah and stuff like this, to make it short so people can finish it. So you can finish it and gain the benefit. You don't have to go all detail, because some of those things I did go into detail, and that obviously 50 hours of content for one book shows that it's going into some detail there. So now, so that's a little bit about what we're trying to do there, insha'Allah ta'ala. I guess somebody keeps asking for help. He's being destroyed by the silent habit. What advice can I give the brother? So this is I've done several videos, whole videos, and I know other people have done them as well. There's a lot of content out there that you can send to people about that issue. You know, people who are afflicted by pornography and zina and stuff like that. Most people, they know the punishments. They struggle with that. And as I say, this is the most summarized way I can talk about that, is that the bottom line is a person will not quit those kind of habits until they're ready. They have to determine that they really fear Allah, or they really, you know, the sheikh can say, I've asked Mashaykh about this thing. Sheikh, what do you advise the one? I have, there's short clips on my YouTube, me asking my Sheikh Saeed and other Mashaykh about, you know, what's your advice to the one who suffers from pornography and da-da-da-da. You know, and they'll tell you to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, everybody knows that, to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The bottom line is, when it comes to those types of habits, if they are not a total addiction, where it's totally having those those physiological effects on your body and withdrawals and all those stuff, that those things you will have to, and even those things, amazingly enough, there does come to a point you have to determine when you're serious about your deen, more than that short-lived pleasure. And that is a lot of things. A lot of us as new Muslims, we had many things. Music was a big fitna for a lot of us. Women, without doubt, was a huge fitna for a lot of us. And going back and forth. Sometimes you're strong, sometimes you're weak. Sometimes, you know, we could just go on and on about those things. However, a lot of those things, it came down to really determining, no way, my Islam means more to me. And that's literally for myself. For me, I was DJing, doing all kind of stuff. And I literally had to say, whoa, I'm a Muslim. And now that I know that this is haram, this isn't, especially after going to Yemen, it took me that long I had already maybe quit more or less listening, but I had my collection, okay, from years, you know, just like my books, we used to collect music like that. So that's when I got rid of my records, okay? So it's going to come down to a point that the individual has to determine what means more to him or her with regards to their deen or those temporary pleasures, you know, whether it's the whatever sin that they suffer from, and especially things like pornography. You have to really be like, man, no, Allah hates this. I feel horrible with this. It distorts my perception of women. It distorts my perception of society and people, you know, because it has massive implications and effects. People who are really involved in pornography, they don't perceive other human beings even the same. I'm even talking about, you know, everything, because if you're looking at that and bombarding yourself in that fantasy world for however many hours a day or however long or whatever, it has physical effects on your body, and obviously mental, physiological. It affects you spiritually, obviously, your deen. That's the most important thing. So those kind of things, we know they are so harmful, and you have to strive your best to get away. But the individual suffering from that will have to sit with themselves and determine, and then take the steps to put in between them and that wicked sinfulness, they will have to put a barrier between them. And one of the things I asked Sheikh Abdullah Mar'i, Hafidullah Ta'ala, in Shihr, in Hadramaut, in the south of Yemen. And I said, there's a student of knowledge, he wants to come here, and he was asking, but he says he suffers from pornography. Do you advise him not to come? I said, no, tell him to come. But he said how he deals with this pornography, of course, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he needs to put the locks, like, kind of like those child locks or whatever, the thing, so it locks your images out, so you can't see images, so you can't have, and this was a long time ago. So now the technology is different and so forth. But the point is you have to take legitimate steps to put between you and those types of sins. So if you are suffering from that, you don't really need to be with technology alone. And you don't need to be, you need to take some steps, as well as the true determination and true tawbah. And that's the tawbah to nasuha. That's the sincere tawbah, meaning a person suffers from this, but mostly they don't want to make tawbah. They feel sorrow, they feel bad, but they're not prepared to delete their website. They're not prepared to delete the websites that they are contributors to, or that they are content providers for. They're not ready for that. So they have to determine and do that themselves with sincerity, so they can get rid of themselves from all that fisk. And mashallah, some of the mashayikh, if you know Arabic, I think Sheikh Abdul Razak and Sheikh Suleiman Raheli, I've listened to videos from both of them about that, and really, really beneficial things. But again, ultimately, the bottom line is, we all know it's haram. You know how it makes you feel. You've got to determine that you're ready to quit. No one else. It's very rare. Maybe you stop for Ramadan easily, but the night of Eid, you almost rush to it, okay? Or something like this. Some people, they can stop the club on a dime, and literally Eid, Yom Eid, and Laylat al-Eid or what have you, boom, they're back at the club, they're back in action. So everyone's different in the level of their iman and their deen and their discipline, but ultimately those kind of sins, you have to determine you no longer want those kind of things. You don't want that in your life. You truly don't want to, and you're making true legitimate efforts. Boom, no more. I'm not even going to watch anything at night, even things that are mubah. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to put this in. I'm not going to be alone. I'm going to, whatever it takes to where it becomes habitual, that you leave those sins, instead of habitual that you are doing those sins. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us all and protect us all, preserve us all, forgive us all, and guide us all, and bless us with the halal. One last thing with regards to that, ask Allah often, as well as taking those steps to help you with that, to get away from that. And also ask Allah with the dua that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, oh Allah, suffice me with your halal over your haram, and make me self-sufficient with that, or suffice me with that, something similar to that as far as the translation. And so, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a lot with those kind of supplications, that Allah gives you the halal, that Allah gives you not that fantasy wife that you're watching, but the one that will please you, a wife, a good wife. And if you struggle, that Allah will give you the lawful. And if it's a sister and she struggles with that Allah will give her the husband that will give her that physical, mental, and spiritual pleasure, which will be much more fulfilling and suffice her compared to that qabiha, that wicked sinfulness. Wallahu musta'an. Whoops. Yeah, and then the last point, since I read some other comments, you have to realize, again, it's the determination. So sometimes people do make tawbah, and really tawbah to nusaha, but they fall back into the sin. And the scholars mention that too. I think Imam Nawawi, may detail that, and others. And, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts their tawbah, but sometimes life happens, things happen, and maybe it's a month later, maybe it's weeks later, maybe it's a year later, they relapse, you could say. So then they make a true tawbah again, that they've really strove to distance themselves. So it may be an ongoing battle. So that's one thing we have to realize. But also another point is a lot of people don't make tawbah to nasuha. They go through the motions, but they really didn't intend to really leave the sin. Maybe they decide to take a break for a week. Say, hey, can I get off porn for 1 week? Can I not smoke weed for 2 weeks? You know, they do that. But that's not tawbah. So making real tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, real repentance, and you know, striving your best to commit to that lillah subhanahu wa ta'ala with sincerity. Naam. If someone told you something in confidence, but they said not to tell anyone, can I mention what happened to someone else as a way of warning and a lesson? In general, you want to avoid that, especially if there's a chance that that person can be exposed. For example, I do get sometimes people send me personal emails and they say, please don't make a video. Please don't say about this. Please. And so I have to respect that. So then I don't. Even if I can make the topic general, even if it's like this, if they don't put that condition, then okay. If they say and they're okay with it and they want that video response or whatever, and it's not pointing to them anyway, la bas. But if it is something and a person is confiding in you, then no, you can't. And I know the scholars for sure, they get people asking all kind of serious personal questions and things. And if there's not a chance that it's going to put someone in embarrassment or on blast, then yes, they might make a lesson out of that. So in general, you want to not do that. You want to try to avoid that unless there really is a true maslaha in that, and that the person is not going to be embarrassed or harmed by that. You know, you could maybe change the topic a little bit if you want to gain a lesson, or talk very in general, so that the person is not, especially if they're a person who listens to you or a person who can find, you know, you don't want them to feel embarrassed or anything like that. You know, that is a trust and a manner. You know, we don't want to expose people. Sometimes people need advice and they're going through struggles. So you have to respect that from your brothers and sisters and not expose them. Bi-idhnillah ta'ala. If we donate on your website, is the website secure with encryption if we use credit card? I don't have donation anymore. I don't have I closed the GoFundMe page. And what else? Yeah. So basically the way I have it now is just people who want to enroll. They want to enroll. But I thought about maybe in the future, I'll see, because I need to talk to the people who have enrolled, even who have done the free courses. So I'm trying to get familiar with the platform, so that way we can discuss and see, you know, what is holding you back from joining. Is it a financial thing and so forth? Because I know some of my brothers, subhanallah, I just found $20. I'm not joking. Now that we're talking about money, this is real. Just sitting here. Well, someone comes by and they're looking for their money, we'll get it to them, inshallah. The point is that what was the point? That so that's what I have right now. So what I thought about in the future is opening up my brothers, some of the other platforms, like maybe a GoFundMe page or something for people who need like scholarships, like they prove that they need some assistance and they want to study and they're serious about studying. Then maybe others who want to donate, they can donate to that khair, and the money would be used for people who want to enroll but they financially can't afford it, or they can only afford a portion of it. So I think that's something I want to do in the future. Hopefully I'll have more time shortly, because I'll be traveling and I'll be on my vacation, so I will have a chance to do some Athari things as well as other as well as some good hiking. I can't wait, even though it's going to be freezing cold, but I can't wait to get back to Washington. So I'm going to be going back to my mountains and my rivers, loving it. Naam. SubhanAllah. Let's see, I can't, wearing the glasses, I can see from far, but I can't read with the glasses, actually. They're very, without mentioning who they are, of course. We establish a P.O. box if we can mail money. I don't think that's a good way to do it anyway in this day and age. But like I said, what I may do, maybe I'll start a GoFundMe as a scholarship page for those people who want to, you know, so it can help people who want to participate. But as of now, I closed that GoFundMe page, and please just keep us in your du'as, and maybe you could instead pay for somebody else who wants to participate in the course, and something like that. And that's a good way. You will get the reward. Everything that person learns, you will get reward from that, and the financial donation. So that's a great ni'mah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with every kind of khair. Ameen. Let's see what else is going on. App called Keep Me Out. Oh, okay. So that sounds like a way to keep away from those bad websites. What is the ruling on hanging pictures of ayats of the Quran or the Prophet ﷺ? Prophet ﷺ's name. The scholars, they mention, you know, the Quran is not there for tazayyin. It's not there to beautify your walls. And I know some people, they try to think that they're getting blessings from that. So no, you shouldn't. The ruling is you should not do that. And some of the scholars, I don't know if that is considered necessarily ta'liq or like ta'allaka tamima, but anyway, you should not do that. The scholars do speak that this is something madhmoom. You should not do this. It's sinful. So that is the hukm. Don't do it. If it is wrong, how to advise family who do so. You can tell them, you can actually share with them in the Kitab al-Tawheed. There is, you know, read some of those hadith about ta'liq, you know, and some of the explanation of the scholars with regards to that. So advise them in nice ways. Again, a lot of those things, it's hard when you do have, alhamdulillah, the ni'mah is that they're Muslim family members, but sometimes you have to tread lightly and advise them in a kind and gentle way, but advise them with knowledge. You know, it needs to be with knowledge. So if you want to advise them, make sure you're grounded on the issue. Bring some of the scholars. There's fatwa, and I'm sure it's translated in English from some of the major scholars with regards to this issue. So what you can do is you can read that in the nicest way. Say, well, it's impermissible for this and this and this. Then you've done your job. You can't necessarily always physically change a munkar that you see. So that's the whole reason the Prophet ﷺ said, "Men ra'a minkum munkarin." Whoever sees a munkar, فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ. Change it with his hand. فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ. And if he's unable to do so, then change it with his tongue. Speak out against it. And if he's unable to do that, change it with his heart. And that's the weakest form of iman. So all of that is from iman. And you know, do your best. SubhanAllah. Now, so that's very important, that you want to do your best and change the munkar to the best of your ability. To the best of your ability, and that's why the Prophet ﷺ let us know that there's darajat, there's different levels of changing the munkar. And that all of it is from iman. That's the beautiful thing. It's all from faith, showing that you have faith. Even if you can. You know, how many times are we in, especially in many environments, but especially in a non-Muslim environment, there's going to be many times you're going to see things which are sinful in Islam, which you're not supposed to be doing, or this and that and the other, regularly on your job, in the souk, in the marketplace, there, here, there, and that. But Islam doesn't mean every time somebody drives up in a car, you have to rush out and tell them, no, don't listen to you know, whatever. Don't listen to the music. Don't do this. No. And change and tear their door off. No, that's not what Islam is telling us to do. But you're changing what you have the ability to do so. So the fact that they're playing loud music and even the grandmas are agitated by it and whatever, that you dislike that in your heart. Don't be the one who loves that in your heart and you're like, yeah, that beat's kind of funky. Yeah, I like that. No, you want to actually hate that in your heart. And that's the weakest form of Iman. So you just do the best you can. Do the best you can for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're getting a little bit of rain. I don't know if it'll be rain or snow. It's so cold that, man, my battery's getting ready to run out too. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. So I don't know if there's any other questions. I'm going to pick up our pace so we can get to the house because it's now Maghrib is coming in. See if we can see what's going on. I know hanging photos. Let's see if we can see better with this or not. On the wall display now. Clothes and away in the drawer majority of the time. A photo album, fine. No, we can't say having a photo album is fine. We can't say that, no. No, it's not fine. What a lot of people do is they do that anyway, but no, it's not permissible. But if you have those kind of things in your house, then at least close it. And if you only have the ability to control your room, for example, maybe your parents, maybe your family, they do it. Well, at least in your space, keep those photos covered or out of your space if you can. Okay? Now, that's the beauty of Islam. Fear Allah as much as you can. If you're doing your best of your ability, you don't lose. Do the best of your ability and you don't lose. It's getting chilly out here. Wow. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Do you know if Ustad is Salafi? Well, I wouldn't recommend and say good if I didn't think he was Salafi. So from what I know, he is Salafi. He calls to the book and the Sunnah. That is his creed. That is his methodology. Does it mean he doesn't make mistakes? No, that's not what it means. All of us make mistakes. All of us akhta. So for what I know, and that's the only reason I would recommend and say that he is good, is because I believe he's Salafi. Because I know Salafis who love him and who praise him and give him high recommendations. People that I trust. People that I, have been in the trenches with, who recommend and say that he has a lot of khair and is calling to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and is taking things on another level as far as their da'wah. So, have a khair azim. This is beautiful. So yeah, I would never say and recommend if he's, I'm not going to recommend a mubtadi. I'm not going to say, oh, listen to so-and-so, even though he's not Salafi. Benefit from so-and-so, he's not Salafi. No. Oh, a little bit of rain. SubhanAllah. Is a masjid without innovations but 5 people better than a masjid with innovation but many people? The masjid is the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, of course, if there is bid'ah in the masjid, they're doing bid'ah, whatever, the imam is from some sect or something like this, then of course it's better to be in a place of the sunnah. It's better to be in a place of the sunnah. Okay? That's just in general right there. So it's better to be in a place of the sunnah. Now, I'm getting my glasses and everything. What does Mubashirun wal Munira mean? Something along those lines. I heard an Islamic lecture introduction. Wow, the rain, it smells good. It's cold. Mubashirun wal Munira. Yeah, I'd have to hear the context, but Mubashirun wal Munira, Mubashirun, this is referring to people who give glad tidings. Or the people who get the glad tidings, like for example, Ashara Mubashirina fil Jannah, or bil jannah, those 10 who have the glad tidings of paradise. They're guaranteed paradise because the Prophet ﷺ mentioned them from those Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. And then the concept munira refers to nur, comes from the word nur, so light. So I don't know how they're using it and what it means in that context, but those are the general meanings of those words in the Arabic language. Wow, I didn't expect rain. What else? Do you know Brooklyn, the revert official? She has 10,000. Is it okay to teach Islam even if she doesn't have ijazah? Can we help train her in Islam if we studied Islam? So yeah, that'll be the last question. I have no idea who she is, anything about her. And of course, teaching people, this is khair azim, to teach people Islam. So we cannot say, no, don't train or don't teach someone Islam. Thirdly, she should not be given knowledge if she does not have knowledge. So that's the point. It's not necessary that she got an ijazah here or a ijazah there, but it's more al-ibra bil-ilm. The most important, because there's many people who are ignorant who have ijazah. And then there's people who have ijazah and they're legitimate, So the point, al-ibra bil-ilm, the most important thing is knowledge, is Islamic knowledge. So if she has knowledge, then she can call knowledge and invite the sisters or whatever. P, don't ever stop. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all to benefit. Bless us with tawfiq, ikhlas with thabat. Time to pick it up a little bit. It's cold, it's raining, and it's Maghrib. Maghrib is coming in, so I need to get back and bow down. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.